Welcome back guys, and today I want to talk about another NAS from the Synology 2020 launch event in Taipei, and this time I want to talk about something a little bit more cost effective. I've just finished recording that enormously powerful 6-bay. Hopefully you've seen that video, otherwise go down, look at the previous video. But today I want to talk about something a bit more affordable, a little bit more familiar, something for the people out there that are looking for something a bit affordable, that want to taste a Diskstation manager. This is the DS420J. It's the follow-up to the DS418J, and it is their affordable 4-bay cost-effective solution. Now, the J series in 4-bay have been around for quite a while. I think it goes all the way back to the 411J, but don't quote me. This NAS arrives with an ARM-based CPU. It is a 64-bit Realtek CPU, and it is the Realtek RTD1296, a CPU we have seen on Synology NASes previously, although slightly more expensive ones than this likely. This device also arrives with 1 gig of DDR4 memory, but of course that memory cannot be expanded. In the case of this NAS, I wouldn't be surprised if that memory is hardwired to the board and therefore you cannot upgrade it any further, which is going to be a real disappointment to some of you. Now hopefully there is a graphic on screen right now, as it's using exactly the same chassis as the previous iterations of that J4-bay series. That means it's going to be in that kind of quite retro looking design. It's a metal chassis, and on the front you've got LEDs and ventilation but no USB, power button there in the middle, and on the rear of the device we have got 2 USB 3 ports and a single LAN port and 2 rear mounted fans. Now drives are installed via the rear of the device for those that have seen the J series. Again, very familiar indeed. And the reason I keep talking about cost effectiveness is because of several factors. One, the previous iteration of the 418J came at about 250 quid. That's how much that one cost. And it had a very similar design to this. It had a dual core CPU, and that was a Realtek too, and that was the RTD1293. But this CPU is both a quad core in the new version and 1.4 gigahertz per core. And although it's only got 1 gig of memory, it's still going to be a very powerful NAS by comparison. But it's still using specs that we have seen before. Indeed, very similar specs were available last year in the DS418. And the DS418, which is still available to buy right now, went for about £320, I think. That's without VAT, without the hard drive media. So where this device is going to sit in terms of price, we still don't know, because we've got a couple of goalposts there. Now, it will support a Synology Hybrid RAID. So alongside RAID 0, RAID 1, JBOD, RAID 5, RAID 6, RAID 10, you'll of course have Synology's Hybrid RAID, that ability to mix and match those drives. Likewise, because we know this CPU, we know that it can run a number of things. It can be used as a Plex Media server, although transcoding's off the table, but that doesn't mean transcoding's off the table, period, because thanks to native transcoding of 4K and 1080p and 4K playback on this CPU, it means that you can utilise this using Synology's own platform and programs to make the most of your media on it. You can also run snapshots, and that CPU is enough to run BTRFS as a file system, though I double check in advance if 1 gig of memory is going to be enough to run BTRFS. So for now, let's call that a to be confirmed. Things like virtualization are very much off the table with this device. This CPU is great for surveillance cameras, but thanks to that memory, you're probably looking at 10 to 12 cameras max, 15 at a push. And the device will arrive with 2 camera licenses included, and of course 2 years of manufacturer's warranty. Loads of things can be gleaned from this device's specifications, what we know so far, based on the product family. And that CPU being featured in devices like the 218play, the 218 and the 418 mean that we know what this CPU is capable of. We know what it can and can't do, and it can take advantage of around 70% of Synology's own range of applications, and it should be powerful enough for DSM 7.0 that we've talked about in a previous video. Now, there are a few more NASes to talk about. I'm trying to focus on the disk stations at the moment and talk more about rack stations in Germany, so I'm going to wrap things up here. But stay tuned for more new releases from these events in the coming in the next day or two, and I'll of course be updating you all here and on NAS Compares throughout this time. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, buy your NAS from the guys at span.com, the NAS experts, and click the bell to be notified of new content. I'll see you next time.